Good afternoon, everybody, and sorry for the slight delay, but here we are live from the province of Friesland. It's as flat as a pancake, but it's very windy today. This is the Elfsteden race, edition number 2, just only number 2, but we're basically racing the iconic Elfsteden Tocht. I will tell you a little bit more about that later. My name is José Bain. With me is Brian Smith, and Brian, this seems to be everything that's left from the peloton.
With the original, just a bit of housekeeping. Originally, we had a group of 7 riders, and then we had a bit of kind of crosswind action, which meant that another group went across, including Olaf Koy and Jasper Philipsen. One is called also at the back here for Uno X in the reds and the yellow. So it looks as if we've got a group about just over 20 riders, including the 7 riders from the original breakaway.
Yeah, we've got a few teams here with multiple riders represented. Jumbo-Visma are here with Olaf Koy, Eduardo Affini and Lars Boven. Alpecin de Koning have 4 riders in this first group, with Jasper Philipsen, Edward Plankaart, Taminio and also Fabio van der Bossen. And this is an aerial view of our breakaway. The Tour de Titema Unibet cycling team, they're here with 2, with Hartijs de Vries, one of the 3 riders from Friesland, and Davide Bomboy. Also Volker Wessels are here with 2 riders. They are in the black, blue and light blue, with Timo de Jong and Max Kroone. We have Huub Arts and Tim Marsman also in the dark blue, but with the bright yellow helmets of the Metec Solovat team. And then some riders on their own, like Søren Werenskjold, very important rider of Uno X. We have Tour Dens of the Flanders Baloise team. Luka Meskec is the only representative for Jayco Alula. And one man from Germany, Josh Huppertz. That is the composition of our first group. Remarkably, no riders from Team DSM Firmenich, and just only 1 rider for Jayco Alula. Also 0 riders for Intermarché Circus Vanti. And then we're talking about the World Tour teams not represented at the front. I'm trying to find a time gap. The last I read was about a minute between the 2 groups. But that was already 30 minutes ago. But Brian, remarkable is that some of the bigger teams, also Q36.5, not represented at the front. So there is still a possibility for the peloton to do something.
Well, let's see. Let's see what pictures we get. I covered the race in Germany yesterday, and Q36.5 missed out completely. They were pretty much chasing all day, and only had 1 rider left in the peloton at the end. So, you think with a lot of these riders racing yesterday that they might be a little bit tired, but no. And that wasn't an easy race yesterday. And I think everybody knows that in these sort of races, it's a lot better to be in the front than in the back foot, and that's why we've got some of the favourites, some of the kind of fastest sprinters in the world.
Oh, this is already looking pretty tricky here. We have Olaf Koy, number 11, on the wheel of his Italian teammate Eduardo Affini. Yeah, this race, it's 204.8 kilometers long, and it's inspired. It's actually almost the iconic Elfsteden Tocht, which is a cultural heritage here in the Netherlands. We're racing in the province of Friesland, which is all the way in the northeast of the country. One of the 12 provinces of the Netherlands, and home to the 2nd official language of the country, namely Frisian, a province that was and still is to a degree fiercely independent, but especially a couple of 100 years ago, fighting the dominance from the provinces of Holland, because as you might know, Holland is actually only the western part of this country. The Netherlands is the entire country. So the Netherlands is not Holland, but Holland is in the Netherlands. Well, that is a little bit of a lesson. There's some really cool YouTube clips where you can actually find that. But yeah, the chasers, as we can see, led by the team of Jayco Alula. Last year's winner is racing with number 1, Elmar Reinders. But also on the team they have Dylan Groenewegen, Luke Durbridge, Hamish Mackenzie, Blake Quick and Zdeněk Štibar in what looks to be one of his last races as a professional. He wants to continue, Brian. Zdeněk Štibar is what he said in an interview, but it doesn't look all too good. But he wants to continue one more winter because, of course, next year in February, the World Cyclocross Championships are in Tabor in the Czech Republic. But he said in an interview with the Newsblad that it's not looking very promising for him to find a new team. Here we're back with our first group. 2 riders there of the Tour de Tietema Unibet team. Søren Barendskjold indicating the feeling, the sentiment of the day, Brian?
Well, I don't think he's got much to kind of worry about. He's in the front group. He was in the front group yesterday in Munsterland, and he's in the front group yet again today. To actually get here, you know, you have to have some form. You have to position yourself in the right place. Like we've seen the second group, it just looks as if Jaco Alula are riding purely because I think Dylan Groenewegen is there. But you can see in this front group that Meeskits is kind of rolling through. It's always a very difficult one in a crosswind race, that if you sit down the back knowing that your teammates are chasing behind you, you have a risk that, you know, you're in the gutter, and you know it's not the place really to sit in any group, because you can turn a corner into the wind and everything's in the gutter and you're not getting any shelter at all. So Warrenskjold might be a little bit tired from yesterday, but really not the place to kind of sit in these type of races.
No, especially if we have some more wind coming. We have a western wind today here on the course of the Elfsteden race, sponsored by Bet City. That's the official title, the Bet City Elfsteden race. Like I said, it's mirrored on the Elfsteden Tocht, which is an iconic event in the Netherlands. The first one was in 1909. When just 9 people made it to the finish line. You must imagine that is 200 kilometers on skates, on ice. That is what the Elfsteden Tocht is. The last edition, the 15th and last edition, was in 1997. So that's over 25 years ago. And, well, due to climate change, most likely it will not happen again, because your ice has to be 15 centimeters in all the places, and then once it starts freezing in this country, we all get the fever that it might actually happen. They do things like ice transplants, Brian. Can you imagine ice transplants? Like places where the ice might not be thick enough or even open, called a wak, W-A-K, a wak. They transplant ice from other parts to fill that and hope to create new ice. But there is parts where you actually have to go on land, and that's where they have the Frisian word of klunen. That is walking with your ice skates on land. Klunen.
Why do they have to transport ice when ice is made of water?
Yeah.
Why don't you just pour water on it?
Because
and then it freezes into ice.
Yeah. But sometimes on this 200-kilometer long route, you have very exposed sections with the wind, and the water would just not freeze over. So then you transplant big blocks of ice, and you hope that they kind of gel together to create new ice.
Okay.
This is
transplanting ice in the
water.
Netherlands. Yeah. Just like they do in some Spanish countries, they transplant sand. That's why they give you sandy beaches. But the waves move that sand away, and they have to protect it. So yeah, not every beach you go to in Europe is is sandy as it normally is, because they transplant sand. So they transport ice here in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the last edition was 1997, and I remember it really well because I was doing my paper round still. It was in my last year of high school, so I had my paper round at 5 in the morning, and normally everybody was asleep. And that morning, everybody was awake because this race starts at 5:30 in the morning, because you have to do 200 kilometers on skates. Well, now we get a little overview of our first group and the chasers. That gap, that is manageable. Let's go back to the racing. 114 riders on the start with the World Tour teams of Jayco Alula, Jumbo-Visma, Alpecin de Koning, Intermarché, Circus Vanti, DSM Firmenich. We have the pro teams of Q36.5, Flanders and UNOX, and then all the Dutch Continental or Third Division teams, plus Team Lotto Kernhaus. That is our field, 114 riders. A race, like I said, it's only the second edition, Brian, but yeah, we have some serious problems in this part of the world, in this country, because the police in North Netherlands has already said that they are going to withdraw the support for bike racing next year. And without police in the Netherlands, you can't organise a bike race. Civilians are not allowed to do the jobs that the police do. So if the police says, okay, we're not helping out next year, this race will not happen. The Ronde van Drenthe Women's World Tour race will not happen. So it's a bit a difficult situation. It's a capacity problem, because out of all the motorbike police officers we have, only a handful, well, a little bit more than that, but only a small number are actually qualified to do bike races on the open roads. And that's how we end up with a really low number of bike races in general in the Netherlands, especially if you compare it to Belgium or France for that matter. And now in the north of the Netherlands, which is home to 3 of the pro races that we have, the police have said, well, next year we're not doing this anymore. And then some people ask me, well, can't you just hire the police to do it? No, you can't. Not in the Netherlands. You can't hire the police. So they do have a pilot right now to see if civilians can actually be the traffic marshals and stop traffic. But in order to be able to do that, you have to change the law. And since our government just fell, we have elections next month and then about 9 months of formation usually. It will take at least 2 more years before we are there. So things are not looking really good for edition number 3 of this race. So let's enjoy it while it lasts, because
Did they give a reason why they've decided not to do it?
Yep, staff problems. Because these cops that do as a second peloton is now
so they've not got enough
coming back.
They've not got enough people to do
Nope.
it. So yeah, the law has to change. In the UK, we've got the NEG, National Escort Group, that can fill that kind of hole and do a very good job.
Yeah, but that's not allowed just yet. Officially, normal people, civilians, don't have the authority to stop traffic. And if you decide to just ignore the civilian on the side of the road and you continue on bike or foot or car, in the worst case scenario, you have a big problem. If you ignore the police, you have an even bigger problem. Like I said, we only have about 130 of these motorbike officers, and most of police capacity in sports nowadays goes to completely unruly football hooligans, and to try to keep them in check. So we hardly have any pro races left in this country, and when it comes to junior races or younger, it's becoming almost impossible to do races that are not circuit races. You know, the one that we did on the European Championships, it's a circuit race. It's easily manageable, but this is from point A to point B. It's open roads, and police says we don't have capacity. We need to focus on our other jobs in controlling traffic and that sort of thing.
Have they thought about closing roads?
That probably won't go down well in this country. People, in general, in the Netherlands are not really keen on authority. And we've seen it in the past in races in the Netherlands where roads were just closed and people think, well, I don't care. I'm just going to continue on my Saturday afternoon shopping anyways. So let's enjoy the race, Brian, while it lasts. And I'm happy that we are live with you here from Friesland as we are making our way to the north quite shortly. We're just on our way to Stavoren, I think, at the moment. And the Elfsteden race has its name actually from the 11 cities. It doesn't have to do anything with Elf on the Shelf, Brian Smith, like you said before, and Christmas. There were 11 cities in the province of Friesland who had city charter rights. And they basically made a skate race along these 11 cities. which caused a little bit of a problem because to the north of our start town of Leeuwarden, we have a place called Dokkum, and that is completely out of the way. So in the skate Elfsteden tocht, you basically have to go one way to Dokkum and then exactly the same way back. It's completely useless extra 50 kilometers, but hey, they have city rights, so you have to go to Dokkum. Balk is one of the 11 cities, and that is where we are now. One minute and two. Brian, you were not overly optimistic that this group, the second group, would come back.
No, it does look as if that we have got the second and third group back together now. So it's a larger group. It's a bit more difficult to kind of manage. It's a little bit easier to be in that kind of group. I think it's about 21 riders now, because the lefts, rights, the size of the roads. It's easier to manage, but you have to ride. You can see the flags flying. It's pretty windy as it normally is in this part of the world, but it does depend on the other teams. We saw that yesterday, and Intermarché were riding a little bit behind. Jaco Alula, although they've got Maesgets here. DSM were riding. They were well represented in Munsterland yesterday. 5 riders in the front group, which split early on in crosswinds. Q36.5 not represented at all at the front. Don't think there's anybody from the X-Speed United Continental team, but of the kind of bigger teams, DSM is probably the biggest one, along with the Intermarché, that are not represented here. And I think when we look at the front of the peloton, they will be the teams doing the majority of the chasing. Can they do it? That's the question. I think anybody never seen Munsterland yesterday, go and watch it again. Maybe not the whole 5 hours, but it's
the last hour.
It was a long day, and the group in front never really got much more than a minute. And I've got that kind of general feeling with the riders that are here, we might have that scenario yet again, 2 days in a row.
Yeah, look at the flags there on the side of the road. We're now into a headwind sector. We're all the way on the southernmost tip of the course. We just left Stavoren behind, and Stavoren is on the coast of the former Southern Sea. If you look at the map of the Netherlands, in the middle there's a huge freshwater lake that used to be a sea, but they closed it in the 1930s to create a big inland lake. And in that lake they created an entire new province after the Second World War, especially for agricultural purposes, but also for housing, because there was a huge shortage of housing and of land after the Second World War. So we just left Stavoren behind. We're making our way to Sloten, or Sleert, as they call it in Frisian, and this is the southernmost tip, and this is also the only part where we have a little bit of a tailwind. After Sloten we move back northwards, and then it's a crosstail, and then that final part is extra super dangerous when it comes to echelons. Interesting to see that X are participating in this chase.
Yeah, initially Warneskov wasn't doing anything. He was sat on the back because for the second day in a row he finds himself, the sole rider from that team in that group. Maybe a little bit tired from yesterday, but at the end of the day, he's up against it for the second day, purely because yesterday's race it was really helped by Jumbo having 3 riders there. So when you're alone in front, you hope that some of your teammates. But like I was saying a moment ago, in this size of group, although you don't want to be contributing to the chase, you don't want to be sitting at the back because you're hitting the wind a lot more.
And this is that chasing group at about a minute. A third peloton managed to get back, but we do see the teams that we mentioned before. DSM Firmenich, they're here with their sprinter Sam Welsford, Intermarché Circus Lanti with Gerben Thijssen. Those are the teams that we find at the front, and now also Q36.5 there in In the grey, the team, of course, of Matteo Moschetti. Jaco Alula, they have Dylan Groenewegen in the race, and also last year's winner. The scenario last year was kind of comparable to this one. We also had some wind, creating echelons and groups all over the place. We ended up with a group of 20. 3 riders escaped from that group, and then down to 3, and it became a sprint of Elmar Reinders and Mick van Dijken, one of the 2 twins at the Jumbo-Visma team. And it was Elmar Reinders, the man from the province of Drenthe, which is to the south of where we are racing now, who won ahead of Mick van Dijken, Timo de Jong, Koen Vermeldvoort, and now in our breakaway, Arthijs de Vries, one of the 3 riders of the province of Friesland. There he is, getting to the front of the group right now, Arthijs de Vries, racing for the Tour de Titema Unibet cycling team. Ambitious team who wants to take a step up next year, go into the Pro Conti ranks. We've already announced some riders. Sadly, they are saying goodbye to Harry Tenfield. He doesn't have a spot on the team next year anymore.
I think it was meant to be last year with reindeers winning this race, what they call it, the elf race. It should be about Christmas. This race. Palm. It should be. It's got Christmas written all over it, elves and reindeers. But yeah, it was a windy race, and I think the profile today, some of it actually is negative, is it not?
It is. Yeah, it is absolutely under sea level, like most of the Netherlands actually. The entire western part, right until Utrecht, where we had the start of the Tour de France a couple of years ago, and also most of the provinces in the north. This is Sleet, that is the Frisian name. In Dutch it's called Sloten, and it's the smallest of the 11 cities of the Elfsteden Tocht. And here's the water that we were talking about. We don't see a lot of water in the peloton, but that is for the ice skaters. But you can also do this as a tourist. There's a big cycling route. Of course, you can download the GPX to do that, but you also have these signs on the side of the road to do your 200 kilometers Elfsteden Tocht yourself. I think they always do it on the longest day every year, 21st of June. Sloten, at the moment we're almost on the provincial border with Drenthe, which is the place where I'm from, and it's yeah, as you can see, it's really flat. Some parts are even below 0, and Friesland, just like the province of Zeeland, which is all the way on the other side of the country near Belgium, it's known for its large quantities of water, boats, of course, as you can see. A couple of years ago there was even an Olympic 10-kilometer open water champion, Maarten van der Weijden, who did the 200-meter swimming. 200-kilometer swimming, Brian.
Yeah, we do 200 kilometers on a bike. I don't see the problem.
You don't see the problem. Okay. Well, he got millions and millions for cancer research.
That's good.
Maarten van der Weijden, yeah, really good. Millions and millions of cancer research, because he himself had, I think it was leukemia when he was, or non-Hodgkin when he was younger. And after that he became the Olympic champion in the 10k open water. This is Jasper Philipsen, an interesting name in our first group. He is on a mission to be the king of victories this year. I think he's 2 behind Tadej Pogačar at the moment. Luckily for Jasper Philipsen, Pogačar did not win just yet in Italy. There is, of course, another opportunity coming up next Saturday, Il Lombardia. He's done it before, twice, of course, Tadej Pogačar. But Philipsen wants to be the king of the victory list this year. And yeah, this would be number 15 if he wins it. But of course, we also have Olaf Kooi in that first group, Søren Werenskjold, and Ryan, we should still manage to actually end up with a bunch kick in this group, because what comes next should be pretty treacherous. Well, this is the highest point of the province of Friesland. The highest point of our race is actually 10 meters above sea level. But this tower is slightly higher. Here we are at the back of the peloton with our man Brett Walters. There he is, the national champion of Grenada. The second most famous athletes from Grenada after Kurani James. Back to our first group. I'll give you the names yet again. Luka Meskec is representing the Jayco Alula team. He's the only one of his team. Jumbo-Visma have got 3 riders at the front as we have some action already. Look at the flag there at the side of the road. Jumbo-Visma have got 3. Olaf Kooi, Edoardo Affini and Lars Boven. Alpecin de Koning have no less than 4 riders at the front, with Jasper Philipsen, Edward Plankaart, Lionel Teminio and Fabio van der Bossen. We have Tuurdens for Flanders Baloise, Søren Werenskjold all the way at the end there for UNOX. Martijn Razenberg, he is a rider of the original breakaway of 7, representing Ablok. Rick Ottema for the Alling team, also from the original breakaway. Huub Arts and Tim Marsman of Metec Solarwatt. Tour de Titema Unibet have got 2 riders at the front with Davide Bomboy, who sprinted to a couple of top 10 places in the Tour of Britain, and Hartijs de Vries, who was 5th here last year. Volker Wessels have 2 with Timo de Jong and Max Krone, recent winner of the Omloop van Midden-Brabant. That was only last Saturday. Josja Hupperts is there for Lotto Kernhaus and for the Scorpions racing team, Wessel Maurits. And now the breakaway is down to 5. This is good. That is some smart racing from the Alpecin de Koning team. Tour de Titema and Meskec, the 2 riders of Jumbo-Visma, easily bridging across. But Brian, in the final 50 kilometers of today's race, we are going to see quite a few of these places. Our next town of the Elfsteden is going to be Elst. And after that, Snake, and from Snake to Leeuwarden, we've got these open stretches yet again. And the wind is absolutely perfect. It's a tail crosswind.
Yeah, just watching one of the riders from Jumbo-Visma just going off-piste a little bit. It's pushing them into the gutter. This is what I was saying about Søren Walsgold, the rider from UNOX. You don't sit down the back at any moment. A team could just put the pressure on and you find yourself either off the road or off the back. So yeah, you have to be very, very attentive in these races. Just cannot relax at all, because if you relax, you're in for a hard day when you're chasing to get back. There's a couple of riders already been distances and another kind of small group behind, but this is what we're going to get the whole way in towards the finish. And almost one of the riders there, I think it was Bova, that went onto the grass there, he almost missed out on this, and you can see them all fighting in the gutter behind. It's a little bit easier, Jose, just to try and kind of push yourself into the line, go into the line instead of jumping on and off the tarmac at the back.
Yeah, well, echelons are always absolutely perfect from a helicopter image. And yet, just like you predicted, look at the wind sweeping from the side there. Just as you predicted with Søren Werenskjold, he's left out. It was one of their best shots, really, to get a good result for UNOX. And he was just not very focused, was he?
You just see these, I don't think it's past laybys and things like that. As soon as they open out, the rider at the back is kind of diving into it just to get a little bit of moment of shelter. But if you don't go through, the riders at the front will just move over to the left hand side or their right hand side. So it's a case of you have to ride, no matter how you're feeling, you have to ride. Otherwise, the stronger riders will just move over, and you'll find yourself in the gutter. And then you're in the gutter at the back. You don't get any shelter, and then soon you're off the back.
Well, we have the 2 riders of Volker Wessels in this group with the bright yellow helmets and the bright yellow BMCs. It's the Metec Solarwatt team, and these 2 teams, well, together with Tour de Titema, are the, I would say, prominent 3 teams, continental level in the Netherlands. And I think a lot of you are following Tour de Titema Unibet online. Their videos are reaching so many people, and we have of course seen them animate the racing in the Tour of Britain as well. But yeah, they were one of the instigators of this new echelon, and it shows that I won't say that they're punching above their weight. It shows that they're ready for a step up next year to pro level. And I'm happy that we have a team like that, because we're sadly saying goodbye to Bolton, and have a team like them again animating the races again.
Yeah, Warscott has to be careful here, because he needs to jump in this line quite quickly. He cannot just kind of drift down towards the back, because what's happening in front is happening in this chase group as well. You've got to remember, this road is only so wide. You can only fit so many riders in there. Dylan Groenewegen is right on the inside on the left-hand side, so they have been riding, but that increase in tempo at the front, this gap is holding.
Yep. Well, we have some more riders of the original first group back towards the peloton, with our rider from Ablok, Razenberg, Tuurdens, Hupperts, and also Wessel Maurits is now caught. So our group at the front becomes smaller and smaller as Hartijs de Vries takes command here. And Brian, when this group at the front starts to get smaller, the chances of the peloton become a little bit bigger again. It's my thought, actually, but you're the expert.
Well, if you've got, hanging about the back there, one of the riders in the black is making efforts the whole time. The thing is, in crosswinds, if you've got a strong group in front, they'll work a lot better than the bigger group behind, because everybody's kind of fighting, and then you kind of lose riders down the rear. I think it's about 13 riders in here. This is a nice sizable group. Look, they're on the left hand side of the road. 13 riders covering the whole road now, so that's just about a nice size. Anything bigger than that, which you've got in the peloton behind, you can't all fit in. So it'll be really kind of nervous behind, and they'll shed a lot of riders out the back, out the rear of the peloton. So it's a bit more nervy here than it is in front. But the success of the riders in front really depend on them all working well together. And I think you'll want to, because the last thing you want to do is go back to this peloton, because look at the tail on it. If you're in that tail, you've only got a limited amount of time.
Yeah, we're making our way to our next town, also spelled in Frisian. Like I said, the Netherlands officially have two languages. The Frisian language, which is mostly spoken in Friesland, and Dutch, which is spoken in the rest of the country. But even if you live all the way down south in the country, you're officially entitled to have your official government documentation in Frisian. You can go to court and have your Frisian interpreter, for example. You have to have your laws written in both languages. And this is contrary to, for example, France, where you have a lot of regional languages like Basque and Breton and Occitan and what have you. But the only official national language is French. And in the Netherlands, we've got two. And Frisian, yeah, the people here are very proud of their language. The kids learn it at school, so they're bilingual. And all the place name signs are bilingual as well. And we've got one rider from Friesland in this first group. That is Hartijs de Vries of TDT Unibet. The other two are Elmar Abma, very young rider still, just 19, and Björn Bakker. So we lost a few riders. Edward Plankaart is gone for the Albers de Koning team, so they lost one of their riders. So now Jumbo-Visma and Albers de Koning, they are 3 each. Yeah, we're back with the peloton here. And Brian, I'm under the impression that our peloton has become a lot smaller now.
No surprise. It's a lot bigger than the front group, which means that road space is at a premium, especially in these kind of echelons. And a lot of the time, mentally, when you start to get a little bit tired, you kind of drift down the back. You don't want to kind of hang in there, because you're constantly making efforts. But because it's got smaller, there's less riders willing to ride. Of course, some of the teams that have got riders represented in front, like Jumbo-Visma, they don't want to kind of sit at the back. because of what I've just said. They want to just kind of roll through and keep sheltering. It's one of these situations. Racing like this, you get more shelter riding at the front than you do at the back, and that's quite the opposite of other kind of races, because you get more shelter, not putting your nose in the wind and trying to kind of shelter. But in these conditions, in this part of the world, it's a lot easier just to do your turn at the front and do actually a little bit of work, and you get more rest than hanging about the back of the group.
We're now racing on the main road. On the left you see the by-road that is usually for cyclists, for tractors and that sort of vehicles. A lot of kids here in the north of the country have e-bikes nowadays. If they have to go to high school, they use the e-bike because of the distances. Quite often it's 15 kilometers. I had to do 10 when I was younger. We didn't have e-bikes when I was younger, but I had to do 10.
I thought they'd have told you to get your skates on.
No, I don't do anything with gravity and ice. Absolutely not. It's not going to happen. There was a reason, Brian, that I was a competitive swimmer when I was younger. That was a completely gravity-free, crash-free sport. There's hardly any fractures in swimming. It was the safest option. But these are absolutely wonderful roads. We just saw an aqueduct. If you can see it, you can see the canal here and the cars going underneath, cars and bikes as well. One of the Dutch pieces of infrastructure that we have across the country to make way for the boats. Most of the boats here are yachts, pleasure yachts. It's not like we have a lot of transport going on onto these small canals, but there is a lot of transport over water in the country, especially from the harbours in Rotterdam and in Amsterdam, going over water. Back to our breakaway. That is becoming ever smaller, but the distance on the top of your screen is getting smaller as well. And the gap, well, as you predicted, it stabilises.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the same the whole way in. The peloton, they will chase, but it's more a case of just getting a good place at the front of the peloton, staying safe. But for these riders here, they're already committed. They're not going to just give up. So I think all of them, they might not all be feeling the same, of course, but everybody knows that in this group of about 13 riders, it's a hell of a lot easier and safer. So they'll want it to continue. We can see that Meeskits is here for Jumbo, for Jaco Alula, and they were doing quite a little bit kind of chasing behind for Groenewegen, but like we were saying, you don't want to kind of hang about the back of this group. Everybody will roll through, and unless there's a huge concerted effort behind in a reduced peloton, then it doesn't look likely that these riders are coming back.
But one can always hope.
Yeah, of course you got to hope. If you're in the second group, you hope that everybody keeps on contributing, and you can't think about the riders that are sitting at the back. But in this reduced peloton, the reduced numbers for some of the teams, so who is riding? That's the question. I think Jaco Alula and Intermarché were a little bit help from Q36.5, but I think with Gerben Thijssen and Dylan Groenewegen, they are the two kind of main riders that I would think that would want to try and kind of win this race, and I think they're very capable. I saw Gerben Thijssen, he won the bunch sprint yesterday in Munsterland, so he looks strong, and if you've got good legs, then you recover quite quickly as well.
I think this must be Elst on
Heach.
Yeah, it's not. It's the Frisian pronunciation. I'm not even go there. I don't speak Frisian. I did discover only a few weeks ago, many years ago, somebody, I don't know who, made a Wikipedia page for me, about me. And a couple of weeks ago, I figured out that it was translated into Frisian. So I have a Wikipedia page in Frisian and in Dutch. But Frisian, that was so incredible cool. And one of the coolest words that they have in Frisian, Brian, is hurtfietsen. And hurtfietsen basically means cycling hard. And that is the Frisian words for cycling, for pro cycling. Hurtfietsen. Just cycling hard. Isn't that cool? Fast cycling.
Yeah, there's a lot of words that are very kind of similar. You can kind of translate a little bit. It's just, something like that.
Yeah, I think fiets is a very Dutch word. I don't think they have a lot of synonyms around the world. I think I have the names lined up right now. 2 teams, of course, with 3 riders. Jumbo-Visma, Kooi, Affini, Boven. Alpecin de Koning, Philipsen, Taminio, Van der Bossen. Bomboy and De Vries for the Titema team, Titema Unibet team. And then Arts and Marsman, the 2 riders for Maytech. And then riders on their own, Mesketch for Jaco Alula, Ottema for Allink, and Max Krone. I think that is the composition of our first group right now, as we are making our way to Elst and after that to Snake. I don't see a lot of water where we can actually do the ice skating. But there is a lot of wind, and of course everybody hoped that this would happen. Originally this race was on the calendar on the 5th of March, which would coincide with the Strade Bianche Paris-Nice weekend. And they decided to postpone it all the way to October and to do it especially on the day after the Münsterland Giro, because I think it's about a 200-kilometer drive, 170, 200-kilometer drive from Münster to Leeuwarden, where we had our start. So that is perfectly doable. And by doing that, they tried to attract the big teams to this race yet again, and it worked.
Yeah,
it's a 1.1 race since 2 years, so it's a proper pro race. And yeah, they decided to make that combination with Germany.
I think a little bit better field than we had last year.
Yep.
Memory serves me right.
Yep. It's always absolutely wonderful to see the peloton battle the wind and the dynamics that come with it.
It's always dangerous.
Yeah, it is really dangerous. Luckily, it looks
Just
like a
look at the
soft
movement.
landing there on the side of the road here.
Yeah, there's a lot of movement. Any slight movement from the left-hand side of the road, it just goes over like a wave. And if you're at overlapping a wheel, as you have to do, the thing is, in echelon racing, you have to overlap the wheel. And as everybody knows, if you're overlapping the wheel and there's a movement, then that wheel sometimes is taken away from you.
Yep, it could be dominoes. Look at that, absolutely lovely images. On the open land, we are now making our way to Elst. That is going to be the next town on the horizon. And from that part on, we go in a northeasterly direction, and the wind today is west. So we keep at risk for these echelons. And yeah, Mesketch sees the danger right there. There was no road left after Olaf Kooi. He had to move up, otherwise he would lose that wheel.
Yeah, it's constant being aware, constant, making these kind of small efforts.
Well, a little bit of respite there for the riders as we enter the next little village. Look how incredibly picturesque this is, Brian. You don't find this in the Highlands. Or in Paisley, for that matter.
No. That's all I'm saying. But not that far away. Not that far away.
There was so much in these two letters that you just ushered. So much emotion.
No, it's lovely. It is lovely. It's flat.
It's one of the most popular.
Which I don't mind nowadays.
No, it's it's one of the most popular tourist destinations in the Netherlands. Our biggest group of tourists are Germans, actually. Not if you go to Amsterdam, that is usually Brits. But in the rest of the country, most of the tourists, foreign tourists, are German. And they absolutely love the province of Friesland. My parents, they were on the campsite here all the way back in May, and they were the only Dutch people on the campsite. And of course, yesterday was a day off in Germany. It was a day of unity in Germany, and that meant that a lot of people came to visit the Netherlands. Next to the train station, and then we make our way to the next. And that is a slightly bigger town on our route. That is going to be Sneek. It's going to be the penultimate one as well, as this is a mill for wood. Wood mill.
Yeah, I'm glad you worked that one out.
Sometimes I lack the vocabulary to do any words outside of cycling, but this one was like there. You could almost hear me thinking, could you? You could almost hear me think, like, what kind of yeah. But of course, back a couple of 100 years ago, all the power that was used here was either turf, and a lot of the lakes that we have here in Friesland are basically former turf. They dug out all the turf and that filled with water. There's one exception, that's called the Vlussen, and that was created, that's also the deepest lake in Friesland. That was created by the Ice Age, actually, 160,000 years ago, with the glacier ice and the rocks and everything being pushed down south. That is the deepest part underwater of the province of Friesland. It's good to see the continental teams from the Netherlands in action here in this race. Like I said before, we don't have a whole lot of UCI ranked races anymore in the country. Zetalento is of course one of them. We have the Ronde van Drenthe in March, Amstel Gold Race of course, Volta Limburg, and that's I think it. UCI 1.1 and up.
Veenendaal.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, you're right. That's also one. But that's 5-6 races for the Netherlands, which is one of the biggest cycling countries there is. It's all down to policy and due to the fact that, policy decisions. Sadly, because in Belgium you got like 100,000 bike races, and here we only have a few. And it's a problem for the pros, Brian, but it's even more a problem for the juniors, because there's a junior race, a junior classic. There's hardly any of them left here. I think one in Zeeland, and that's it. And as a junior, you want to do these open road races as well, and not just be confined to circuit racing the entire time. But that's what we're doing, circuit races, sadly. Here we are with the two riders of the Tour de Titema. And this is one of our biggest cities on the Elfsteden route. It's the town of Sneek, or Snits, in Frisian. It's a town of 34,000 inhabitants. And you must imagine that during the ice skating, that is the water tower, during the ice skating, they just go right through the center of Sneek. And there will be thousands and thousands of people lining the water with the so-called koek and soapie. Koek being the cake, and soapie being the warm chocolate, or possibly without added alcohol.
I'm assuming some of the bridges they have to duck under.
Open, yeah, exactly. And if they are too low, Then you go back to what I explained on top of the broadcast, the thing called klunen, which is walking on your ice skates. You just put a protective cover on it and you go around the bridge, that just put carpets on, and you walk off the ice, over the carpet, and then continue on the other side of the bridge. Because some of them are just, you just can't open them. They're fixed. Look it up there's like plenty and plenty of documentaries and old footage of the Elfsteden Tocht on YouTube for you to enjoy.
This one here is a bit, you've got a lot of tall people in the Netherlands.
Tallest in the world, yeah. But for the riders, this passage to the town of Snake gives a little bit of respite, doesn't it, Brian?
Strange name for the town, doesn't it, Snake?
Snake, yeah. Doesn't have anything to do with Christmas this time. Yeah, you wanted to stay in your theme. We don't have a Christmas snake. That's not a thing. But it's a lovely, lovely little city, Snake, the third largest town actually in Friesland. We now move towards the capital again. This was our 10th city of the 11 cities race. And now we're making our way back to Leeuwarden, where we started at 11 a.m. this morning.
Actually, they're not that far behind. That's that roundabout again.
I wonder if they are not really getting a little bit closer, Brian, because our timing has been stuck on the same 52 seconds for quite some time. 52,
yeah, here's
58.
that kind of left-hand turn. So yeah, it's panning out
around the
now.
minute.
Hopefully we'll be get just to the left. It's like spot the group in the front. Not spot Wally, spot the group. There they are. We're just leaving Snake, so hopefully we'll see that visually with the group behind, but I don't think they can hang around too much. They need to get organised if they want to try and kind of stay away.
There's a lot of shoe tightening going on right there. We do know by now that you can become a world champion with your shoes untight, but it's not the preferable way of riding.
Apparently you can win races in one leg as well.
Yeah, you can. It's incredible. You don't need any high vis if you've got a bike like that. This is Rick Ultima. He's been around for quite some time. One of the most successful riders on the continental circuit in the Netherlands. Really friendly guy, but never really. Yeah, there's a lot of these riders. You have that in every country, whether that is the UK or France or wherever, who are always like really close to making that final step up to pro level, but never really made it. And Rick Ultima is one of those guys.
We just look in the background there. We're about 15 seconds away from where we passed the Swan Ewers at the side of the road. 48 seconds for some reason. They're sending the team cars up there into this kind of smallish gap. Probably because that for the last moment of time, this is not the sort of race that you're going to have plenty of staff members at the side of the road giving bottles up. So when the gap is kind of under a minute, the team cars can't go in. So there's a possibility of a few of the riders in front asking for that request, trying to get a bottle. They may have not had a bottle for the last 45 minutes to an hour. This often happens in these type of races, and that's why you get a lot of the kind of big classic races that you see a lot of members at the side of the roads giving up bottles. But in these races I wouldn't think that there would be a lot of staff members.
Well, we still have a lot of cars behind our first group, so that kind of indicates that we still have a substantial gap. But the GPS is going down to 43 seconds as we exit Skerne-Gouten, which kind of sounds Scottish, doesn't it? Skerne-Gouten. It could also be near 5. Back to our peloton with Per Strand-Hagenes. I do think he realised what happened yesterday. If you want to know, you can watch on our digital channels what happened yesterday. Because we had so many bike races going on yesterday, and from a couple of weeks from now, there will be no more bike races. And like you said, Brian, the final hour of the Michelin Giro yesterday is well worth watching back. And Per Strand Hagenes was one of the riders in that race there with number 14. He likes this part of the world. He's obviously Norwegian, but he likes this part of the world because all the way at the start of the season, he won the Ronde van Drenthe, which is just 60 kilometers, 70 kilometers south of where we are racing right now, in absolutely abysmal circumstances, and that was his first big win. Per Strand Hagenes, an important rider, especially since Visma has indicated that they want to stay involved in cycling and as a main sponsor for the team, and they are not putting demands on the table, is what their marketing manager said, that there need to be Norwegian riders on the team, but they have a few talented ones there in the under 23 squad, and Per Strand Hagenes is absolutely one of them. The other huge talent that they have is Johannes Staunemitz. Both of them are making their way to the Jumbo-Visma World Tour squad next year, or whatever name it is going to have. The cars, Brian, are gone, and we saw on the overhead shot that the peloton is now really getting closer.
You can see them just behind, just about 30 seconds. They'll know that as well. I think the cars came up because it was a considerable amount of time since they got a feed, and they came through that feed station and saw others get handed up and they didn't have anybody, so they came up. Luckily the group is a size that you can come up alongside. I think it's 15 or less you can come up alongside and feed. But just look at the way that they're starting to ride at the front. They don't want this group to come back, so there's a bit more pushing on the pedals in this front group, and I think looking at the peloton you can just see I think it's for them, it's kind of now or never. They seem to have the momentum. They seem to have quite a few riders wanting to help out the chase. With the Uno X, Warnsko's not there. Chiba Jaco Alula, but they just have to watch putting rider. I know he's just chasing the motorbike here, trying to get shelter for himself, but moving riders into the gutter is not possibly the right thing to do if you want them to kind of help out.
Yeah, they're all pushed into that little parking bay right there. On these regional roads, you have these parking bays when you have a car problem. You can just stop on the side of the road. Yeah, 21.7 kilometers to go. It's 32 seconds, so the gap is in half. But that said, it doesn't mean that they will actually catch our leaders. The open stretch of terrain now between the town of Snake and our Finnish town of Leeuwarden, that is coming up right now. This is where the decision was made last year, and everything fell to pieces in these final 20 kilometers. We have a cross tailwind here, which is of course ideal circumstances for echelons. And Brian, for those of the people watching, why is a cross tail so ideal for an echelon?
Well, the difference between the cross tail and a cross head, it's just faster. The gaps open faster, and it's everybody knows that kind of cross head, it's a bit more of a kind of slog. Okay, you have to be in the kind of front lines, but as soon as you've got that cross tailwind, as soon as the gap goes, it goes, and there's absolutely kind of no way of closing it. So this is why kind of cross tailwinds are always the most dangerous in bike racing, because of the speed that they go at. So you look now, Josie, look at the facial expressions. They're trying a lot harder than they were. They were just riding through, nice and relaxed. But since the peloton have got that kind of bit between their teeth a little bit, and the gap is coming down, it's caused a reaction at the front. And if they want to finish well in this race, get top 10 performance, try and win it, they have to push out. But what the group behind has to make sure that they do is not put everybody in the gutter, because they want to, and there might be a case here. Look at how they're fighting now, even in this small group of 13. There's probably 4 times as many riders in the group behind, and this could be a little bit concerning for anybody kind of riding down the back of the peloton now.
Yeah, and I'd like to go back to what you said before, because this has been going on for over 50 kilometers now, full on racing. None of these riders have managed to go back to the team car to get bottles. There were a few people on the side of the road with bottles. You can bonk like absolutely crazy in these final 20 kilometers if you are, if you were not able to take in any fluids or food in time due to the racing that we have right now.
You can get carried away with the racing with it being so nervous, especially a little bit more relaxed in front, and forget to do it, and yeah, simple as that. But just notice round that corner there, you could see Jasper Philipsen take a look behind, put a hard turn in. Look at the damage at the back of the peloton now on just that small road. So they can see them, the carrot is there, they're riding hard, but they're shedding a few riders off the back of this peloton. And look at Jaco Alula, big turn now. Looks as if it's day over, you know, for you know, the rider at the back here. Yeah, Blake Quick. Because you're getting dropped now, that's it, game over. Put your hard turn in, and it does look as if some of the riders at the front of the peloton with that hard effort there are starting to feel the pinch now.
This is Elmar Reinders getting to the front. He was last year's winner. Yeah, and they have to work really, really hard right now to close that gap. If that front group stays committed, and they are right now, they have it. They have the key to winning this race.
There's more riders riding in the front group than there's riding here, because you've got one rider from Jaco Alula, one from Uno X, one from Intermarché, and one from Q36.5. The other riders just behind. You've got Alpecin, so they're not getting this. You get 4 riders trying to bring back. There was more riders just before then, but they've been distanced at the back of this group. So, like I said before, when it was getting close, it's now or never, and you have to ride really hard. But just looking at this front group now, I would think most of the riders are quite happy just to roll through and keep this tempo high and stop the peloton from catching them.
And luckily there's 2 big blocks here in this first group. Jumbo-Visma with 3, Alpecin de Koning with 3. And then 2 teams with 2 riders with Tour de Titema Unibet and Metec. Edoardo Affini. He is going to move on next year. Leaving the team where he spent the last... Oh no, he's not moving on. He signed a new contract. I thought he was moving on, but he just signed a new contract. So I did hear something, but I did hear it wrong. He just signed a new contract for another 3 years. Hopefully... that will still happen. Of course, all the rumours and all the stories that we've heard in recent days. If you want to stay up to date, just go to our website, GCN, where Daniel Benson and his team are on the news daily. Big news, of course, today, if you haven't heard it just yet, Mark Cavendish has officially announced that he will ride on another year, 2024, with the Astana Kazakhstan team. And yeah, as everybody kind of hoped, it was now officially confirmed by him that he's going on. I think he's going to race the Tour of Turkey that starts on Sunday, and we'll be live here for you to enjoy every day with Brian and Carlton. I think that that passage through the town of Snake, Brian, was the moment, and now the gap is going out again.
Yeah, was that just slight kind of surge in pace from the peloton? It has caused a little bit of damage, but you know, we're seeing a reaction from the front, you know, but you can see some more teeth now at the front of the race. They know that they have to ride. The interest for me now is Philipsen and Coy coming into the finish together.
A little bit of off-road action there. One of the riders being pushed into
Philipsen.
the gutter. Yeah, Philipsen. We have seen a race like this before in Belgium. I think it was Classic Brugge de Panne, but I'm not 100% sure, where we also had both Jasper Philipsen and Olaf Kooi in a completely wind-swept race. And they were just absolutely phenomenal racing through the echelons. Olaf Kooi, he's got 26 wins already. The boy, he's 21. He's 21. So awfully young, but already so many wins. But he's going to take on Jasper Philipsen today.
Another one.
Yeah, that's Stibar. So that means that Jaco Alula, they are basically down to, I think it's only Groenewegen left with Elmar Reinders now in that first group.
Yeah.
Work done there for Cyrus Monk, the man with mullet.
36 is another rider that was riding at the front. So when that happens, you know, you are really giving it more than you can handle at the front. You know, trying to kind of hang on. You can just see the stress here of these riders kind of hanging on the back. But I don't think it's not going to come back 36 seconds. In other races, you would think that 36 seconds, 13 kilometres to go, yeah, they'll get caught. But the interesting thing for me is it's 3 against 3. 3 Alpecin Deceuninck against 3 Jumbo-Visma. The two kind of powerhouses battling it in. And I think would they want it to come to a sprint? I think they will. It's the other ones that I'm worried about. The other riders in the breakaway, how are they going to try and win? The problem is, if the speed is kept high by Alpecin Deceuninck and Jumbo-Visma, it gives you a very limited opportunity to try and, you know, go solo or go on the attack because the pace is so high.
What I also noticed just now, Brian, is that from the breakaway nobody's been dropped for the past 20 kilometres.
No,
so
because
they're all doing their share, but nobody's lacking.
Yeah, you do your share. You try and miss, and this size of group is almost in a perfect size. We saw it earlier. There's enough road space for 13 riders. There's more riders in the peloton behind, and it's all that. As soon as you've done your turn and you kind of drop back a little bit, and you drop too far back, and then you're off the back because you've made big hard efforts. So it's a little bit harder in the peloton to keep position. There's more of them. There were a hell of a lot more than this. So, you know, this is a damage that's been done to the peloton. We saw when we came to air a little bit late that Group 2 and Group 3 merged into quite a large group, but the crosswinds always produce a really kind of hard race, and there's nowhere to hide. And a bit similar to yesterday, that's when the breakaway is out there pretty much all day, and it's the same for this race as well. It's a lot of it comes down to what you got left in the legs. It's not about being the fastest, because that's kind of beating out you a little bit by the wind.
Look at how incredibly flat it is here in the north of the Netherlands. Friesland, the Bed City Elfsteden race is our last race of the cycling season in the Netherlands. We started way back in March, and now we finish it off here in Friesland, one of the 12 provinces of the country, with our breakaway 3 riders, Alpecin Deceuninck, 3 of Jumbo-Visma, 2 for Tour de Titema, Unibet, 2 for Metec, and then a few riders on their own, including Luka Miskic of Jaco Alula. Yeah, we're making our way to the capital city of the province of Friesland, where we have our final few kilometers in the urban area, less open, alongside the Haringsmaat Channel. There is a possibility that you could do something there, but up until 3.5 kilometers to go, this is the kind of roads that we're staying on, the open roads where the wind is your main rival. Back to the peloton here with Brett Waters, a man from Granada, all the way at the back of the peloton of the X-Speed United team. But it would be interesting to see, Brian, who's doing the work at the front. We saw some Intermarché the last time we checked.
Yeah, Jayco Alula, Intermarché, Uno X, still the three teams that are at the front. But they've lost a couple of riders. I think you say Reinders was the only rider left for Dylan Groenewegen. So three riders trying to bring back 13. It's going to be very difficult. I think almost impossible. Gerben Thijssen is there. Dylan Groenewegen just kind of sitting back and waiting, but they'll be waiting to sprint for 14th place.
Yeah, you can see it in the body language here as well for Baptiste Blanckaert. His job is done. It's only one rider left for the team, and of course Gerben Thijssen is still in there. And of course the gap, it's just a very small 34 seconds, and normally you would think that is absolutely nothing. But in today's race, it's every second that counts. This is our leaders. Oh, we have some action going now from the Alpecin de Koning team. Jasper Philipsen just doing it himself here with Fabio van der Bossen, the three riders of Jumbo-Visma straight onto the wheel. And Fabio van der Bossen, he is the last lead-out man for Philipsen, normally in many races. Everybody will be so absolutely, completely tired after this really, really hard race. A 200-kilometer plus race all the way in October. Both of them raced yesterday, both Jasper Philipsen and Olaf Kooi. And also both of these sprinters have participated in the work in that first group endlessly. So I haven't seen any of these two sprinters, Brian, really slacking.
No, you can't. You can't. You have to do your turn. And okay, 200 kilometres at this time of year, but it's flat. You don't have any elevation at all. It's a little bit easier, but what the wind does is just make it so much harder. There's a lot of pressure in the legs the whole time. You see Sam Welsford second from the back. I tell you what, Red Walters is doing a great job here, just kind of hanging on, because it's, like I was saying before, it's not easy to ride last man. You can see that Sam Welsford's digging deep to try and stay in this group.
Seven kilometers left to go as we are going to cross the railroad. There it is. And then we are making our way onto the main road into the capital of the province, into Leeuwarden, which of course traditionally is also the start and finish town of the ice skating spectacle that is called the Elfsteden Tocht. About 100,000 people live in Leeuwarden, and it's one of the oldest city actually of the north of the Netherlands. These are the outskirts with the town of Goutum here with the red roofs at the front, but on the horizon we have Leeuwarden, as they call it in Frisian. Our chasers, we still have 3, maybe 4 teams doing the work, but are completely committed, 13 at the front. What can Luka Meskec do as a sprinter? We have seen that Davide Bomboy has done quite well in the sprints in the Tour of Britain quite recently, being in the top 10. He might get himself a podium place today, which would be a fantastic result, of course, as the last race of the season for this fledgling new team. But yeah, we're just going to look at the battle between Kooi and Philipsen. I can't see it any other way.
No, I think that's going to be the case. Kooi and Phillips are definitely the 2 fastest sprinters here, and if we had one fast sprinter here, then it would have changed the complex of the race. But I think Jumbo-Visma and, by the looks of things, Alpecin de Koning are quite happy to put this down to a sprint. It's all the others. Mies gets will be thinking, well, what can he do? And as for some of the other teams in here, the kind of non-World Tour teams, just getting on the podium. Like you said before, Bomboy is a rider that I noticed during the Tour of Britain. So there's definitely an opportunity for a top place. And some of these riders might have come in and targeting a top 10 or top 6, and they can tick that box off after the day. You have to say that Unibet team, the 2 riders here, they stand a chance. But at this pace, and they have to keep this pace up, they can't skip a beat, purely because the gap is still only about 37 seconds, which means that they have to continually do their turn. There's a few riders starting to kind of miss a little bit at the back, but this pace it's just so high at the moment. It's just very difficult to see any attacks that go. Are Jumbo or Alpecin going to play tactical on the way in? I don't think they are. I think they'll just put it down to a sprint and let the fastest and strongest man win.
Here we are, Leeuwarden, or Leeuward, as the Frisians say. Big city, big hub for schools as well, hospitals, you name it. But most of the headquarters of the big countries, big companies and everything are in the west of the country. This is the northeast, 3 provinces, Friesland, Groningen, Drenthe. And Friesland is our host today as we enter the final 4 kilometers with Eduardo Affini, Olaf Kooi at the front, followed by Huub Arts there of the Metec team, the team with the fluo yellow helmets, and behind him we find the 3rd rider for Jumbo-Visma with Lars Bomen. Neskec is behind, then the 3 riders for Alpecin de Koning, Philipsen, Taminio, Van der Bossen. We also have Rick Ottema, Max Kronen still in this group, Tim Marsman, and the duo of the TDT Unibet team with local rider Hartijs de Vries. He was 5th last year, Hartijs de Vries. Race was won by Elmar Reinders. But it looks like we are going to have either a Dutch or a Belgian winner. This is the sign for the final 4 kilometers. So the GPS is slightly ahead of us. So we still have a kilometer to go here on the outskirts of Leeuwarden. We're just going to follow the canal, which is just outside of view, and then make our way right into the city centre of town. I did see 4 kilometers, didn't I, Brian? It was 4 on the side of the road. Or did I see that wrong? Yeah,
no, I think it was. I'm just looking at how this is kind of playing out. Jasper Philipsen, just inside 3 kilometres, as I say, the ticket goes, just prepared to ride. No attacks coming yet. And like I was saying, with the pace of Jumbo, Visma and Alpecin de Koning, it's a very difficult one to see how this is going to play out. The only thing I can think of is if the 2 Unibet riders get together and actually go together instead of trying to go on their own. This is getting a little bit interesting here, because just kind of rolled off the front here. What's the Alpecin rider going to do here? They just kind of close the gap. So it does look, it's quite clear that Alpecin and Jumbo want this to come down to a sprint, but surely somebody's going to try something.
14 wins this year for Philipsen, 11 for Olaf Kooi. And those are the 2 teams, as we can hear the pilot of the motorbike injured by the traffic obstacles there. This is the Van Hariksma channel on the left of the riders, and this is what we're following basically for the final, and then the final kilometre we go into the city centre. We've got one corner in the final kilometre still coming up, so a rather technical final. I think we can say goodbye to our peloton right now. They have tried, but they have not succeeded. Fabio van der Bossen at the front with a truck parked on the side of the road. Phillips is shaking his head. We must soon get to the Flamme Rouge on this industrial estate here. right into the centre of town. Well, basically just outside of centre of town. We're not going into the old inner city. Fabio van der Bossen yet again at the front. They are with 3. Lionel Taminio is staying with Jasper Philipsen right now. The 3 riders for Jumbo-Visma together. We also see Lika Meskec move up. Davide Bomboy is moving up as well in the light blue. I want to see an indicator where we are GPS wise. There should be a corner in the final that could give us the indicator. There is, we're going to cross the railway bridge with about just over a kilometre to go. And then a final left-hand turn as we go off this main road. Here is the railroad, so this should mean that we're just inside the final 2 kilometres right now, with an attack from the peloton from Q36.5. But personally, I think the action is happening at the front right now. And there is where we are. This is that little left and right-hander. Then we stay on this road for about 800 meters. This is the final kilometer coming up right now. And then we have one left-hand turn on the roundabout going into the finish line. There's a lot of looking at each other. Look at how tired everybody is. And is that the Flamme Rouge? Well, I don't know. It's red, but I don't know if it's the actual Flamme Rouge. The GPS, Brian, is all over the place. But this is what, of course, the Unibet riders wanted to do. They want to try. Hartijs de Vries, he is the local rider. He is a man from Friesland. The Flamme Rouge was there, and he tries on this side of the road. And now it's up to Jumbo-Visma to try and catch Hartijs de Vries. He was injured really, really badly earlier this season, but managed to come back. A little bit of elevation here for Hartijs de Vries as we go over the water, and Jumbo-Visma have caught him. It was a courageous attack going into the final kilometre, but it was not successful. But they still have Davide Bomboy for one of the top 5 places. But for now, it's Olaf Kooi, and on the wheel of Olaf Kooi we have Jasper Philipsen. Taninio is going on the wheel of Kooi now. This is that final corner, the final roundabout, and then we go into the finish straight. The cameras are here. The final lead out for the Jumbo-Visma team by for Olaf Kooi, and now it's going to be Jasper Philipsen versus Olaf Kooi. Philipsen stays behind Kooi as long as possible, and now he gets out. This is going to be a fascinating sprint, but Philipsen has got the speed, and it's number 15 of the season for Jasper Philipsen. Smart racing there by Philipsen, staying on the wheel of Kooi in what is a headwind, pretty fierce one as well. Jumbo-Visma came to the front with Kooi just a little bit too soon then.
They kind of left him at the front. I think he opened up far too early. In fact, the wind is coming slightly from the left to the right, pushing everybody into that gutter. I think Philipsen had to come round the windy side, but I just think that Olaf Kooi opened up far too early there. And fastest sprinter in the world had the power to come round the windy side. Just look as if Gavin Tyson won the bunch sprint there from Dylan Groenewegen. But yeah, win number 15 for Jasper Philipsen today. They played that well. I have to say, Unibet attacking in the run-in. I was just waiting for somebody to go. But in the end, it looks as if they rounded off the podium.
Well, on the 11th of June, this man won the Elfsteden Ronde in Bruges, in Belgium. And now on the 4th of October, he wins the Elfsteden race in Friesland. So, yeah, winner of 2 Elfsteden races this year, Philipsen. But yeah, 15 wins, that is one behind now. Tadej Pogačar. Take us through the sprint now, Brian.
Yeah, the leader, you can see that he pops onto the wheel. He went really in. I think Bomboy was the rider in 3rd place there, but with the wind coming from the left-hand side, it forces Philipsen to go around the windy side, and he was clearly the stronger rider there. As soon as he was passed, Kooi sat up. Bomboy taking 3rd place, Mies gets in 3rd, but you just see that lead out from Affini. And I think at this stage Kooi thought, right, he's in prime place. If somebody wants to beat me, they have to come round the windier side. And that windier side was made look quite easy by Phillips in the end. Just stronger. It's purely just stronger in the end. These sprints are at the end of a race like this are different to anything you normally get. I said it during the commentary. It's not always the fastest. It's the fastest and the strongest. It's what you've got left in the tank, and definitely it was clear that Phillips had much more than anybody else.
Well, there is one more big race to come for Jasper Philipsen, and that is the Tour of Turkey. With looking at, I don't have profiles yet, but looking at the places, I think we'll have about 6 bunch sprints there for Philipsen to dominate. He's
Ja,
behind
zeker.
Pogacar.
Ga ik,
Pogacar has got he's got a pretty big race on Saturday.
zeg jij nog?
Let's listen to Jasper Philipsen, who's taking shelter here in this lovely chair
Het is
and
live op televisie.
lampshade thingy. Maybe the back screen just blew away, Brian. That's what we're doing the interview here.
Jasper Philipsen, was dit een koers die jullie volgens het boekje hebben gefietst?
Volgens het boekje,
Yeah,
ik weet niet of
was
deze
this,
koers in een boek
according
beschreven
to,
staat, maar het is in ieder
Tactics.
geval een heel lastige wedstrijd geweest.
Yeah, it was a really hard race for us here.
Ja, bijna vol gereden van start tot
Yeah,
finish.
we went full gas almost from start to finish.
Ja,
So
het
yeah,
werd
I
een
do feel it in
uiteindelijk
the
een
legs
sprint
now.
met een select groepje zoals je op voorhand al
Yeah, a
voorspelde.
sprint
Je weet,
with a
Olaf
small
Kooi zit er
group,
ook
as you
bij.
predicted
Wat was jullie
yourself.
plan?
You do know that Kooi is
Ja,
there.
we
What was
wilden
your
wel,
plan?
met die groep gaan sprinten. We hadden wel
Yeah, we do
een
want
aantal
to
renners
sprint
mee,
with that
dus
group
we waren
because
vooral
we had
zeker
two other riders
talrijk met de
with
ploeg.
me. So yeah, 3 of our
Natuurlijk moeten
team.
de
We had
benen
the
op het einde
numbers.
hebben.
But yeah, I still needed the legs in the
Ik
end,
denk
of
dat
course.
Lionel en
I think Lionel,
Lionel
Taminio,
en Fabio van bij ons in de ploeg fantastisch
and
werk deden.
Fabio
Ik
van
ben
der
blij
Bossen
om
did
het
a
af te maken.
fantastic job.
Je hebt natuurlijk
and I
gisteren
could
ook
finish it
gekoerst
off.
in Duitsland. Vanochtend
Yeah,
zei
you
je, het
raced
zit
in
nog wel wat in de
Germany
beentjes.
yesterday.
In hoeverre
This
heb je
morning
daar
you
nog
said I
hinder
do
van
feel it in the
ondervonden
legs.
vandaag?
Ja, best
Did that
wel,
hamper you today?
hard. Ik denk, gisteren was ook een heel stevige wedstrijd.
Yeah,
vandaag
yesterday
opnieuw.
was also a
dus,
pretty hard
ik heb
race.
een paar dagen nodig om van te herstellen.
So now I need
Je
a
zei het al,
few
het was een
days to
zware
recover
koers,
from this.
mede door de wind.
this-
Was dat eerste stuk waarin
these two
jullie het
races.
grootste deel tegen de wind in hadden, was dat echt het zwaarst?
Yeah, the first part was a
Ja,
headwind.
tegen de
Was that the
wind,
hardest
hadden we
part?
Aiko die ons goed vooraan hield.
Yeah,
ja,
Aiko
het duurde wel
Bastiaans
een
kept
tijdje
us at
voordat
the
er,
front in
splitsing
that
kwam,
headwind
aangezien,
sector, and it
de
took
wind
quite
tegen
some time
niet
before it
bevorderlijk
split.
is voor aanvallen. Dus
And
we
yeah,
wisten
it
wel
really
eens dat we aan de zee
discouraged
kwamen
attacks.
dat het heel veel vaak op de kant rijden was en dan was het
And
zaak
it
om
was
vooraan te
there was
zijn
a
en
lot
zien
of
dat we mee
echelons
waren.
there. So
Jullie
first it
hadden
was
het
important
moment
to
waarop het
stay
zou
at the
gebeuren,
front
waarop
and
het
be
zou
aware.
breken, hadden jullie goed ingeschat?
Ja, ik
Did
denk
you
dat voor
estimate
niemand
the moment that it
geheim
would
als iedereen
break?
heeft 's ochtends
Yeah, I think
bespreking
everybody did
gehad
their
en iedereen
homework
weet de
and
weersomstandigheden. Dus
had a team
je moet
meeting
altijd
this morning
zien
and
dat je
knows
er
what the
zit
weather
en
is like.
daarvoor heb je een sterke ploeg nodig.
Je hebt een fantastisch
But
seizoen
in
gehad
order to be able
natuurlijk,
to do it,
prachtige
you need a
overwinningen.
strong team as
Maar
well.
ik denk ook dat jij een primeur hebt, want je bent de eerste die zowel de Elfsteden ronde als de Elfsteden race wint. De Elfsteden
Yeah,
ronde
now
in
the
België en de
interviewer is
Elfsteden race in
alluding to
Friesland.
what I said
Ja, voilà,
before,
nu
the
nog het
Elfsteden
schaatsen,
ronde
dan
in Bruges
komt helemaal goed.
and the
Dan
Elfsteden
ga je op de
race.
schaats zien.
And now he
Dus
wants
wie
to
weet.
try it on skates.
Gefeliciteerd.
Dank je.
Joking, of course. Or maybe not, you don't know.
Ik denk dat je best gewoon een verstand hebt. Ja, in de plek van
Yeah, you can make all the plans, of course, but you need a strong team to actually execute it, and that's what they did with Alpecin de Koning, and with Jumbo-Visma for that matter as well, Brian.
Yeah, I think if you looked at Coy and Philipsen, if they were given that opportunity to do that race again, it kind of worked out for them. You have to think that Gerben Tyson and Dylan Groenewegen might be a little bit kind of disappointed, but a lot of the time, by the looks of things, they have their team. They look strong enough, their team. It's just the fact that they're just not placing well. And that's not just luck. You have to ride at the front, and two other big sprinters kind of missing out.
We do know the top 5 with Jasper Philipsen, Olaf Kooi, Davide Bomboy, Luca Meskic and Huub Arts was the number 5. Seems like we don't have a top 10. So that concludes our coverage of the Elfsteden race here in Friesland with another win, number 15 for Jasper Philipsen. Do join us for the rest of the week. We've got some wonderful Italian racing for you. We have the start of cyclocross season in Belgium on Sunday in Beringen. We have Perry Tours. We have the start of the Tour of Turkey. So the cycling season is still on, and I do wish you some great, exciting races to watch. I wonder what that cage is there on the top of the church tower. There was a cult in the Czech Republic where they had their foreman, a Protestant cult, their foreman Johannes Hus, and they basically hung him from a cage on the church tower. But that was not in Friesland, that was in the Czech Republic. Or in Germany, I don't remember. But there was a cage on the tower, but not this tower.